Hey all, welcome in and thanks for joining us. It's Wednesday, November 7th, one day after the presidential election of 2012. It's 11 o'clock on the East Coast. Welcome to a special post-election day edition of Purchase Pulse. And whew, what a day yesterday proved to be. With us on set today, fresh from pulling an all-nighter watching election coverage, Purchase College Junior language and culture major appearing on the show for the first time, Purchase Pulse contributor Hans Huessy. How you doing?
Good.
Good.
Very
Thanks
well.
for coming on today to give a voice to Mitt Romney. Joking.
All right, okay.
Coming up a little later in the show, Purchase College political science major with a concentration in international relations, Purchase College senior, my great friend, Hattie B. from just up the street, Brown, stops by Studio One to give insight into how yesterday's election went down. Back on set, though, she's celebrating since the election, since it was called in favor of Mr. Barack Obama late last night, Purchase College senior, journalism major, Carly, never a dull moment, Eden Smith.
Luckily.
Glad you made it. Glad you made it as always, Carly, stumbling out. But last but not least, Purchase College journalism student and Purchase Pulse co-host, I'm Kyle McKenzie. Again, thanks for joining us for our special kooky post-election day special. And woo, Carly, I never thought I'd see this day.
It was out of control last night.
It was wild. It was
Yes.
wild. So where were you
phenomenal.
watching where were the results coming
I
in?
was in my dorm with my apartment, with my roommates, and we were all in my room, like, watching, and we kept updating our phones, and we were just going crazy, and then we were watching, like, SVU at the same time, because it could get a little dull sometimes. Just
Multitasker.
counting things.
No, Hans,
so.
were you at? Where were you taking all this in?
I
heard
was
you had a late
doing
night.
similar
that's the rumor
things.
mill.
Yeah,
Similar things.
out in the new, we were just watching. We actually planned a drinking game to the results, which was pretty fun.
It wouldn't
Well,
be
that's not
college without it.
kosher.
Would it be?
That's not kosher.
Carly started her drinking game at the midterms. So. Anywho, yeah. I was in the city yesterday. I decided to go in and watch it from there at another media site. But I couldn't believe it. I was a little nervous for a second, but the results came in at 12 after 11, which I thought was interesting. That in 08, at 11 o'clock, it was called for Obama. In 2008 and in 2012, it was called at 11:12.
Yeah.
But there
So
was
it's
that awkward 90 minutes where Mitt Romney did not call to concede.
Yes,
Exactly.
I
worried
remember
about that.
that.
And he was
yeah.
planning to contest, or he was trying to contest Ohio.
Yeah, he was trying to wait.
Which is wild,
But-
Coming up in the headlines that we have today, front page of the New York Post this morning, hail O Cesar, and not the guy that
Gotta
makes
love the
sandwiches
Post.
in the hub. Carly, what's on the Daily News here?
Michelle Obama going Beyonce crazy. You're the BAM. Right here.
And then also, fresh new cover, we have Obama triumphs, Midwest is key, political divide remains, a nation moving further apart. And Carly, what do you got in the New York Times there?
I just have Obama's night. Tops Romney for second term and bruising run. Democrats turn back GOP bid for Senate.
Cool. Now let's take a look at our map here, courtesy of The Atlantic, and how it broke down. Interestingly, I thought the election was kind of smooth and quick yesterday.
Yeah.
Hans?
It was smoother than I-
Carly?
It wasn't smooth. It was so close every single time. And Florida still, like, I was watching Florida.
Yeah,
the
still
closest.
white. Yeah.
They were breaking it down by county.
Yeah.
And it was just like blue, red, blue, red, blue, red. And it was so nerve-wracking. Like, I had to stop watching it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hans, do you want to hold up that map real quick that breaks down by county? I thought it was interesting, the divide, how everything went down. as
Yeah,
of press time.
it's obviously before they updated the West Coast polls and everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, the only surprises for me were Virginia and Florida going to Obama. I thought he was going to win. I just wasn't sure that he was going to win by such a big margin.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Florida hasn't been officially called yet, but he's ahead by a couple thousand votes last time I checked, and
Yeah.
something like 100% of precincts are in, so it looks like that'll end up in his column too.
Absolutely. I honestly, everyone's saying because it was so close, throughout, the ever since the midterms, everything's moving closer. Then they narrowed down to the general, and it's so close, and then 11-12 came around, and next thing I know, boom, we have a winner.
Well, I found out, I was watching TV, a different channel, and I found out because I heard, I'm not kidding you, like shrieking, screaming coming from the alumni. And I'm like, what is that? And then I turned the TV back to, to CBS News with Scott Pele. And he's like, and Obama has won his second term in office. And I was like, oh, sweet Jesus. And then someone started lighting off fireworks. And I was
In
like,
alumni?
yes,
or?
in alumni. And I was like, oh my God.
Unbelievable. So, Hans, are you surprised with this outcome?
I'm not surprised that he won. I thought there was a small chance that Romney could win, but I'm really surprised about Florida. That's the only thing. I thought Romney would carry the state. But,
Yeah.
Everything else, I don't know. I was expecting him to sweep most of the swing states.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, when I was in the city, I got it about, had to have been 6 or 7 o'clock, and the first polls were just starting to close, and Romney was originally up, and
Yeah.
then, but it was when these big, states came in, Colorado comes in, California brings all their, electoral votes, Ohio, that was a big one as well.
Yeah, that was
So
the big
eventually,
part.
he keeps going up, 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 and then I literally was with Jamie Roderick, who comes on the show sometimes, and next thing we know, we look at each other, and they call it for Obama.
Yeah. I left the room for a second, and
Yeah.
people were talking, and then I came back and I saw it was over 270. It was at 274.
Yup, absolutely.
But they didn't put up which state they just called, so I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? What's
Yeah,
going
what
on?
happened? What happened?
It's like, which state won? Yeah.
And I thought it was an interesting point you brought up about the fact that for 90 minutes, we were just left in limbo. Romney.
He really were, yeah. He was like not coming out. You could tell he was upset. So.
Yeah, which I thought, I thought his concession speech was good, but I just felt it lacked that warmth.
Well, I don't think
he
I
wrote it
would
on the
be
fly.
warm if I just lost a really close race.
Yeah.
I mean, he did it eloquently. I would have been like really pissed.
Well, Hans, I think it's interesting because they said going into the election, about 6 o'clock, it came out that he didn't even write
Yep.
a concession speech. He had a victory speech. So I could picture it as, them back in their cubicles,
Yeah.
trying to, dearly beloved, we're gathered here to,
Yeah.
All the interns in the back writing.
literally
a
like go,
speech.
go, 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 go.
He
What does that
was-
say about him, though?
They were all banking that there was some secret element of the electorate that really hated Obama that wasn't talking to the pollsters, and that was
Yeah.
going to come and save them, and then
No,
that never
no,
happened.
Never happened.
And I completely agree. And I thought that when you were adding up, they're doing, some of these, truly, political statisticians are adding up the electoral votes. It just time and time again, Obama had a clear path. In Romney, it was like, well, if this happens and that happens, it's going to be a toss-up.
Yeah.
He basically had to win all of the swing states to have a real shot at it.
Absolutely,
Or only
absolutely.
ones.
And I think the other point here, where was it? Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Ohio, Colorado coming in. And Wisconsin, I know they expected it, but what does it say when your own candidate is, Mitt Romney's running mate,
Yeah. This
doesn't
is
win his home state?
I was reading last night. This is the first time since 1972 that a major ticket has lost both their home states.
Yeah, Massachusetts as well.
Massachusetts went blue, and so did Wisconsin, which
Yeah.
is Paul Ryan's home state. So
No, I just
there's
think
something about the ticket, I think.
Yeah, and also I couldn't help but notice that Paul Ryan was kept muffled the past few weeks by the campaign.
Yeah.
Luckily.
Obama, as Biden's out there, getting in the forces, but then Biden's just kind of hanging, or excuse me, Ryan's just kind of hanging out.
Ryan had a moment where he was saying that Obama was a threat to Judeo-Christian values at a rally the other day. That was the only thing he really did recently. But
Yeah, I just felt he
that
was
his
like
last
just
thing.
he was just in his, he was not put out there, and even with the local interviews,
Yes.
he was not allowed to go out, and I think, do you think that hurt at the end, or?
It might have. Then again, it might not have. I think a lot of people turned against the Romney ticket because they don't believe in Paul Ryan's budget, which,
Absolutely.
Romney embraced in his far-right stances on social issues.
Mm-hmm.
This is the last time that the Republicans are going to be able to try and win this way using only the old white vote. They're going to have to find ways to appeal to minorities and get softer on the social
What
issues.
is the future of the Republican Party, though? Because I feel at this point there is disabandon or rebrand
Yeah.
yourself.
They're going to have a big internal conflict, I think.
Okay, thank you, Hans. Coming up, Purchase College political science major Hattie Brown joins our table on this special post-election edition of Purchase Pulse. Stay with us.
It's not whether you win or lose.
It's how you play the game.
It's not whether you win or lose.
It's how you play the game.
Sportsmanship.
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 It's the right way to play the game.
It's the Purchase Panther way to play the game.
Go Panthers! Stunning shot outside of the Purchase College Library. Inside, however, joining us now, political guru and all-around Renaissance woman, Hattie Brown. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This is very exciting. It's a good day for Democrats.
It's
Yeah.
what?
It's a good day for Democrats, right?
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, us independents on the group, I can't
Yes.
see it away. But, it is
Oh,
a good
okay.
day. It is a
Touche.
good day. So how long did it take you to vote yesterday?
How long did it take me to vote? Let's see.
Where did you vote and how long did it take you to
Well,
vote?
it's interesting you should bring that up because given the circumstances with Sandy,
Yeah.
they made a concession for those people that weren't able to get where
Yeah.
they're actually registered. So I'm registered here in Westchester County, but now I live in New
so-
York in Manhattan. So I didn't have
Force
to.
of nature.
I didn't have to make it up here. Fortunately, there were affidavits that we could sign,
Okay.
allowing us to vote,
Yeah.
where we live or wherever we happen to be. So
How long was
that was
the
great.
process then? Someone
Well,
told me 20
the-
minutes. I think Steph, our camera operator, said 20 minutes it took for her.
Wow,
How long was
nice.
yours?
I waited in line for about 2.5 hours.
Really?
Wow.
The block, I mean, it went, I voted in the theater,
Yeah.
and it went, down the street from the theater, around the corner, and then across the
Wow.
street to the other block.
Wow,
So
no,
it was, yeah.
That's what. Carly, how long did you wait?
I
you
I
went
didn't
home.
wait. I went home.
Oh, Carly,
At like 8 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and there was no one there except for the little old ladies like making me sign
Hi, Granny.
stuff.
I'm sure my
So
grandma's
that was
watching this
it.
right now. I'm laughing.
That's great
You know,
they have the
I
option.
ended up voting right here on campus over at the Red Room they had.
I waited online with my roommate and it just took forever.
90 minutes. It
forever.
was 4 o'clock when I went in. I stood in line, and then by 5:30, I finally got in and voted, and then slipped it in and then left. What I didn't like though is there was part of it, you had to fill it out by hand, and then you go over and put
To
it in the
a machine.
But the cover thing didn't really work. So there was my ballots exposed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, they didn't have anything to really cover up,
Yeah, it's-
especially if you were filling out an affidavit in the Red Room.
Yeah, it was
you were
just
just
kinda
out on
there.
a table taking a pop quiz
Having
with a
fun.
Scantron.
That's what I felt.
So I was just
And
like,
Carly
it's
was
a little
cheating off me
awkward.
still. No, I'm joking. It was wild. It was wild. But anywho, back to the election. So we have a winner,
We do.
Mr. Barack Obama
Winner, winner,
and
chicken
Mr. Joe
dinner.
Biden. Where did the election take a turn for Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan? What happened, and why? Because
I
it was
think
so
it was
close.
Mitt Romney's mom jeans.
Have to bleep that one out.
Interesting.
More mom jeans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it's important to keep in mind, particularly for Mitt Romney, this has been a 6-year campaign,
This is
and
true.
If at first you don't succeed, try again.
well,
I'll stop singing, Carly. I'll stop singing. Yeah. No, I agree though.
I think Romney had a lot of issues, that were sort of stymied for a while. But I think at the heart of this campaign was the job situation, was the
Okay.
economy. And I thought, for a capitalist through and through, someone who came from money, who just exuded
money.
money and, yes, exploited that, to the nth degree.
I'll make you a $10,000 bet. No, I'm joking.
Listen, we'll talk after the show's over.
Yeah, but I
no.
absolutely agree.
I think that was one fundamental issue. The other thing was, it's kind of like the elephant in the room nobody wants to talk about,
Yeah.
but, it's the Mormon issue. I
Okay.
mean, that's a very sort of secretive,
Yeah.
issue that he didn't really want to address. And, he has every right to do that, but to not make yourself transparent in so many ways, I think that really, really went, in Obama's favor.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think it doesn't hurt that Obama is generally, I think, well conceived as a likable guy. He's a family man. He's got young
Yeah.
kids.
I agree with you there, but how important is that really?
I think it's huge.
he's-
I
Well,
look
I
at the
think that's a part of
election.
an appeal of a candidate is how they are, as a family. Like you could tell that he loves his
Absolutely.
wife. You could tell that he loves his kids. And I think
yeah.
that reflects upon us as American
Not
values.
that Mitt Romney does not love his kids.
No,
and
no.
I any of that because the whole Romney
Yeah.
family was there for there yesterday. But I think I've always been told the old saying don't hire anyone you wouldn't want to go to dinner with. And I think it speaks well if you're going to be with
Yes.
these people. And I don't think I would feel comfortable going to dinner with him. Yeah, I don't.
Romney?
Yeah.
It would be awkward.
You should take comfort in the fact that he's probably paying. No, but seriously, I kind of question that,
Okay.
how important that is to have the likability factor,
Yeah.
the fact that a president is charismatic. I don't really know what that has to do with the job. To be honest,
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's all I'll say about that.
No.
But the other thing is that, there was a lot less, I felt anyway, of a conviction towards Obama specifically than there
Okay.
was in 2008, certainly.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it was for many people the lesser of two evils.
Absolutely.
So-
and I always thought it was interesting, the idea of a novo. You have a novo, you know, that you can go in and vote, you know, Republican, Democrat, Green, Libertarian, and there's a novo.
Yeah, that's
And
what I did.
Oh, the majority
Yeah.
that gets the novo, you know, throw out the candidates and get two new ones.
Right.
Going forward, though, what's Obama's toughest challenge going into this next 4 years?
I think there's an unrealistic expectation, actually, that the president creates jobs.
Okay.
Yes.
Because,
That's
you know,
true.
that's what he's been attributed with this, you know, well, that was Romney and Ryan's stance, is that, you know, where are the jobs? The unemployment rate has, you know, has not gone down.
Yeah.
And, you know, where do they expect him to just pull these jobs from?
Yeah.
You know,
And in
most
4 years, too. I mean, it's impossible to do anything in 4 years, especially make a change like that.
Absolutely.
Well, he had a lot to clean up.
Yeah.
You know, and that has to be accounted
He
for,
inherited
certainly.
quite a mess, and I think he made the best of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
And I think it's a hard job, you know? I mean, obviously it is, you know? And I heard some people say, like, why would a white man want to do that job, you know? Like,
That's true.
Which I was like, wow, that's what someone said to me last night. I was on the streets, and I said, I don't know. I said, I don't know.
Right.
Romney, though, what was the tipping point in the election, in his whole process? Because personally, for me, you know, I have to say, for me, the 47% thing really
yes, I
polarized.
was just about
it really
to
set me
mention
back.
that. It was a 47% thing for me as well.
I am a registered independent, you know. I like, because you know, I don't want to be on a side. I want to take everything in and go from there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just felt very polarized, you know. And who knows what Obama's saying behind all our backs, anyways, you know.
That's true.
Just as Mitt Romney. But I think that I don't know. For me, that really turned me off a little bit. It turned me off a little
Me
bit
too,
and kept
absolutely.
thinking with Obama.
Well, that and another thing that turned me off is the whole, you know, what the Republicans want to do with women's health and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And, you know, people are always, you know, thinking like, oh, that's not important. But it is to me. Like, I'm a young lady, you know, in college. Anything, God forbid, anything can happen and something like that. And I just, like Obama, he seems to actually care. And, you know, he says what a woman does with her body is her business. And I'm very strong-willed when I say, you know, no uterus, no opinion. That's my thing, so.
Interesting. And I thought it took a lot of gravitas for Obama to say, I don't think a bunch of men sitting around making decisions about women is the way to go.
And
you
I've
know?
never heard that come out of a politician's mouth, ever.
Directly.
Exactly.
Directly.
So it was a comfort.
Yeah. And Hattie also, as you know, a senior in college, and a woman. What are your feelings on that?
My feelings on what specifically?
Wow. Now we're getting Hattie. Whoa.
Sorry, I didn't mean to ask that in a pointed kind of way. I just
got it.
there were a lot of issues in there, and I just want to make sure I
absolutely.
address the
Your
right
feelings against each candidate in terms of women's issues, and who do you feel would be better equipped to deal with women's issues in making policy going forward?
Well, I think that Obama has certainly, especially with his health care plan, I think that he has.
Which you're a supporter of, or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I am. I think that that's probably one of his strong points, and I'm sure, as you probably read in the polls, he succeeded with women, definitely.
Absolutely.
And Romney always had that disadvantage.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was when he sort of started, you know, bringing Anne to, you know, into the limelight, and she's
Yeah.
taking all these initiatives like, hey, I do support women, I've got a wife, you know, but
Yeah.
on the other
doesn't mean
hand,
anything.
it's,
Absolutely.
no, I think that's one thing in his favor.
Cool. Hattie, we got to leave it there. Hattie B from just up the street, or the East Village, rather. Thanks so much for your insight. Always love to have you on. I hope you come on more often. She's one to watch out for, folks. Keep an eye on her, but keep it right here. You're watching a special post-election edition of Purchase Pulse.
Minutes after the hour. With us on set now, project coordinator for the Purchase College chapter of the New York Public Interest Group, NYPIRG for short, Alex Wojcik. So glad you could be with us today.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me.
Welcome. Now, little backstory here. Well, first we gotta thank you for our wonderful stickers she
stickers.
brought. You voted. I registered.
I totes voted. I didn't just
You
vote,
you
but
totes.
I totes voted.
Totes
Duh.
voted.
Duh. Duh.
No, I first met Alex. I was walking to the hub innocently a couple weeks ago, and here's this bright energy, which I love. And she just picked me right out. She said, "Have you registered?" And I did it just to make sure I did it, and I'm glad I did. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Cool. So you are the project coordinator for NYPIRG.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about it's Get Out to Vote, like what your organization is about.
Well, NYPIRG, New York Public Interest Research Group, just
Yeah.
a bit of background.
Totally.
We're the state's biggest completely student-directed
that's
activist
awesome.
organization.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we've been rocking out for over 38 years now across 20
Rock on.
chapters all over the state.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting out the vote and voter empowerment, voter education, and good government are just some of the things that we work on. It was definitely one of our biggest pushes this semester.
I think it's great. Now, do you do this each election or just for presidential elections? Or it's
Each election.
year-round thing?
Yeah, last year I was running around raving the vote with my clipboards and voter registration forms as well.
And Alex pointed out she didn't
yeah.
bring binders today, but she did bring clipboards. That's
Lots of
our woman.
clipboards.
Woo, that's right. Now, how was it this time around? Presidential election, a lot of first-time voters. This was my first time voting in a presidential election.
Oh,
I
that's so
voted in
exciting.
senatorial other ones, but other years local ones. But yeah, it was exciting. It was exciting. So how was the feeling, the energy on campus for this?
It felt like prom. It was very exciting.
It felt like prom.
It really did. Well, throughout the whole semester, students definitely were really excited and coming to the table. I didn't even have to be too vibrant, to register. Our turnout at Rave the Vote was incredible. We had over 300 students there getting excited about the election. And then yesterday was just incredible. 1,106 people voted
Woo!
in the referendum yesterday.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
On
which
Purchase
is
College.
at Purchase College in the Red Room right there.
That's something. You should be really happy for your guy. You guys should really be happy. That's awesome.
We are so excited. Yeah, that's incredible, and it's just the first step to really making a huge difference.
Absolutely. I was watching, the commentators today on some of the other networks, and one was saying that I think young voters turned out more in 2012 than they did in 08. That's a statistic I heard. I'll have to double
I can't wait to see the final percentages because in 08 it was, I think, 54. Someplace around 55% of registered, of young people, 18 to 24-year-olds, were registered to vote.
Yeah.
And then over 75% of that group went out to vote.
I think that's
so
wild.
getting a bigger turnout would be awesome.
I think that's wild. And if any, I was talking earlier, I went over around 4, and I was in line 90 minutes. Not that I was happy to be in line, but it was great to see everyone, come out and talk about it.
Those lines were kind of awesome.
I'm sure because I saw your stand outside yesterday. I'm sure that was
Yeah.
awesome. And what I like too is, didn't you have people stationed inside just helping and keeping? I think there was 2 girls there from NYPIRG.
Yeah, actually, two of our amazing volunteers just decided to go in there to make sure everybody was getting their affidavit ballots.
I think that's awesome. I think that's awesome, and that's why I really felt comforted when I went. And it was just like it was a nice energy, hanging out.
Yeah, absolutely. I was kind of hoping there was like a DJ there or something. Like, let it be purchased.
I know, right?
I know, it would have been great if it was in the polling room.
Yeah,
We had a
it's
DJ in the
stewed.
mall for a while.
Yeah, or you put in this. Oh God, imagine elections
put it
in
in
the
a
stewed.
stewed.
That would be awesome.
Carly, what did you think about on Facebook? Some people were like, oh, I'm so glad the election's over and whatnot. But for me, I like seeing friends. Like we're political people, but I like seeing friends that are not political talking politics. I think it was interesting to talk about
absolutely.
their vote and and what they were for.
I think we're starting to realize more and more how important it is to know what's going on. I mean, you don't have to like it. You don't have to agree. But it's good to know what is going on in your country.
Absolutely.
And it makes you, a lot easier to talk to, makes conversations go a lot smoother. It does. If you are in, like a cocktail party or something, and you have no idea what's going on, then,
Like that guy you took out the other night.
Yeah, absolutely, because I do that all the time.
Alex,
But-
no, sorry.
But I'm just saying that it's ignorance is not attractive, and when you know something,
Yeah.
and you're like, like Colorado just passed a bill to make marijuana legal, literally that came out after Obama won. Obama won, weed is legal in Colorado.
The potheads are going crazy across the state or across the nation. Alex, what do you think about the notion though that being informed, getting out to vote is the cool thing now? as opposed to the 90s. I'm not saying it wasn't in the 90s, but I feel like, do you think that's more of a trend to be with it in terms of?
To be with
Yeah,
it.
well, apathy is definitely not sexy at all.
Yes.
You know, we're
Yeah.
we're so over that, and apathy, especially among students, is definitely not even an issue that
Yeah.
you know even crosses our minds. It's like, duh, of course, everybody cares.
Absolutely.
That's a great trend.
Yes.
Absolutely. What was the biggest challenge for you taking on this process of getting out to vote and getting people informed to make good decisions?
I would say the biggest challenge was making sure everybody got to exercise their right after registering and making sure those forms were, we call them
Yes.
clean, perfect.
Yeah.
And then I turned them in and, you know, made sure everything was great. After all of that, it wasn't so much educating students. Students knew what was going on. And we
Yeah.
had our higher education candidates forum,
Yeah,
so all the
that was
local
great.
Yes.
folks came in and answered students' questions, and that was great. But the biggest thing was making sure that students didn't get turned away.
Yeah.
And when they ran out of affidavit ballots for about 45 minutes yesterday.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, they
Ooh.
did. So then it was us standing at the table. Okay, come here and do arts and crafts. We have do-it-yourself stickers. We had a DJ for a while. We had things
See,
to
there was-
do.
You
See, there
Carly.
was, I missed the party.
Yeah, you were late. You were
I
late to
missed
the
the
party.
party.
Wow.
Yeah, Tim Deo from EDM Club was spinning some
Awesome.
sweet trap tunes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So going forward here, where do we go forward in terms of NYPIRG and your organization?
Well, today you can stop by our Cafe Frac in Kim Center North, and we're calling the governor and demanding not to frack New York, basically, and continuing to stay active, you know, riding off this momentum, whatever issue you're most passionate about. If it's higher education, you know, making sure that we vote these politicians in, making sure they know that we need to go to school, we need to
Yes.
keep higher education affordable and accessible. We need
Absolutely.
to have air in the environment to breathe and clean water in New York State and everywhere. And it goes right down the line. You know,
Yeah.
we need to help one another out, especially in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, when that hit, did you guys get nervous that this is going to affect voter turnout for young people?
Oh yeah, and that's
Yeah.
why it's great that we are such a big organization all across the state, because something happens, we mobilize immediately.
Yes.
Yeah. No, where is it just Purchase, or it's obviously not, but how is it split up by school or county?
There's
or?
chapters at 20 different college campuses.
Okay.
All across the state.
Sorry.
Yeah, I went to see New Paltz, for example, and was really active in
Wow,
the
New
chapter.
Paltz.
Careful, Carly.
I live right there.
Oh, I love it.
That's our area.
Yeah, so we're a really big network, basically, all across the state. Actually, the announcement that Governor Cuomo made to allow affidavit
Yeah.
ballots, that was totally NYPIRG's doing. You know,
Which
we
I thought was
Luckily,
great
yeah.
because Hattie B, she was on right before us. You know, she was just saying she wasn't going to be able to make it up to Westchester.
there were a lot of students.
Yeah, and I think that was a huge turning point in the election as well, Sandy. Like the very last event, because I think Romney handled it horribly, excuse me. But Obama, he really like pulled through. He like brought us together.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like
It's
it
a
was
tough
inspirational.
situation. You know, what
Absolutely.
what do you do? You got to let the president be the president in those kind of situations.
But I think after
Yeah.
Katrina and that debacle, like I think presidents
Yeah.
now are like, okay, well if this is happening, I have to be on it because you don't want what happened with FEMA and all that.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. So in
Yeah.
terms of the election, you're happy? Not happy?
Personally, well, NYPIRG's obviously totally nonpartisan.
Yes.
Personally,
And you don't have
I'm
to say,
really
yeah,
excited.
yeah. Okay,
I'm
okay.
definitely really excited. I think that the next 4 years are going to be great. We have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely.
I think we can ride off this momentum and seriously kick some butt.
Cool.
Yeah,
When are your
excellent.
meetings? Where?
Every Monday at 7 o'clock in the basement of the Hub, CCN 0025.
You are awesome. Alex, thanks
You're
so much for
awesome.
coming on today.
Thanks for having
Seriously, for
me.
this special post-election day special of Purchase Pulse. Be sure to check out Purchase NYPIRG on Facebook to get the latest news and to learn how to get involved. When we come back, we'll tell you what, if anything, got us thinking wide open today. You're watching Purchase Pulse. Hey everyone, welcome back to a special post-election edition of Purchase Pulse. It's time to tell you what got us thinking wide open today. Hans, we'll start with you.
The fact that the most liberal agenda in about 100 years has been validated by the American people. I think the possibilities going forward are really exciting.
Absolutely, I think that's awesome. Heaves, how about you?
Well, I guess mine is a less positive note, but I guess this whole conversation has just got me thinking about the really strong political divides in this country, and I think Florida especially is indicative of that. I mean, you've got, Dade County, Miami, and then the rest of the state kind of up for grabs, and it's just kind of really, it's really indicative of how.
We're only in a half-hour show here, Heaves. No, I'm kidding. I love it. Absolutely, and I hope they get it solved soon. Absolutely. Alex, how about you?
I definitely, feel bolstered about the great momentum we've been building on this campus, and I hope that we ride that momentum. So if you want to keep making a difference beyond the polling sites, come to our weekly chapter meetings every single Monday at 7 o'clock in Campus Center North, room 0025. That's in the basement of the hub.
Absolutely. Check out NYPIRG on Facebook. Miss Carly. Never a dull moment. Eden Smith?
I learned that it's good to see all the young people going out to vote, and I hope it continues.
Those young whippersnappers.
Yeah.
And I learned it's another election, another time. We'll see you back in 4 years where I can't wait for the craziness to start again, right?
Yep, I'm
Absolutely.
excited.
Carly, if it's Purchase Pulse, it's Purchase Pulse.
It's Purchase Pulse.
It's Purchase Pulse. But anywho, stay tuned for Purchase Late Night with Mike Cronin.